kind of what 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 kind of
All right, so what's up? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Natural Order Podcast. So, here's what I want to talk to you all about today. I want to talk to you all about the loss of your innocence, right? I want to talk to you all about, I'll say it, the rape mentality, right? The rape victim mentality, the mindset that we can take on, the destruction it does to us, how we overcome that. Okay, so here's the thing. My first sexual encounter was with, it was not with a woman. Okay. Am I claiming, I'm not claiming to have been raped or anything like that, but at that point in time, I wasn't ready for the loss of innocence, right? Here's a little recap of what happened to me and what happened to my mindset, right? So, and I may have explained this before, but as kids, we tend to, we had these things called sleepovers, right? And, I had slept over someone's house, a friend, and we play video games, wrestled, all that stuff, right? Well, in our wrestlings and playing, right? We were practicing wrestling moves, things like that, right? And it came a point where I was laying down on my back, and he had practiced this wrestling move, and imitating what we saw on TV, and so he jumped on top of me, right, and like did some sort of frog splash or whatever, innocent stuff, right? Didn't think nothing of it, but what happened after that um, is what really kind of altered my mindset. My my I guess it altered my mindset towards sex and towards I guess the loss of identity that I suffered growing up. Okay. Um so in this this person, he was smaller than me, right? Uh and so once he performed his move on me or whatever, he, kind of stayed on top of me, right? And started doing this like grinding motion. Now, my first thought initially, right? My first normal reaction as a young boy was to push him off of me, right? I'm, hey, get the hell off me. What the hell are you doing? This is weird, right? But he had like grabbed around my neck and on my arms, and he was like, no, right? And it was weird the way he said it, and I don't know if that had an effect on me. Probably did, more than likely did. But he was like, no, and so I just kind of stopped, and he just kind of grabbed the back of my neck and continued this, I guess this grinding motion, right? And it was, something weird. Had never felt something like this before, and it felt off. It felt weird, and as I tried to push push him off of me, right? And let me remind you that he's a few years younger than me. He's smaller than me, significantly smaller than me, right? Um, as I tried to push, it became really hard to get him off of me, right? And I it wasn't like I couldn't physically push him off, because I know for sure I could have pushed him off of me and ended that interaction right then and there. But it was something about the voice he used, right? It was something about the word no, right? And the grabbing onto the back of my neck, which kind of, it froze me. You understand what I'm saying? It froze me, and it made me not want to do anything. Now, eventually, we, you know, we stopped. He stopped, climbed off. I don't think it lasted for that long. Maybe 30, 40, 45 seconds or so, maybe if that. Okay. But what happened was, after that one encounter, he and I, as we continued to um, be friends and play together and be outside and go outside and all that stuff together, right? We, we had we began to develop this secret relationship, and I don't know if I would call it a relationship at that time, but we began to do things in secret and in private every time we would either spend the night at each other's houses, or we would go inside each other's houses just to play video games and things like that. You understand what I'm saying? And we started to do things with each other and figure out our sexuality with each other, and stuff like that. And this lasted for a while, right? 6, 7, 8 months, probably up to a year, um, possibly even longer. But we would do things when we would spend the night at each other's house. We would stay up late and wait until we would wait until everyone else falls asleep, and then we would indulge in secrecy and in private, right? And here is how it altered me. right? Because these feelings I've never felt before, these feelings that, um, and I'm talking about physical feelings, right? These feelings I've never felt before became pleasurable to me, right? Soon after that, I started, at, by myself, when I'm home by myself, late nights, things like that, I started to experiment on my own, right? From then, I started to stay up late and watch TV, and I discovered things on television, right? But what this gave me was this sense of high, right? Um, and it was weird because like I said, I'm 9, 10, 11, possibly at the time, and I don't know what's going on with me physically. I don't know what's going on with me sexually. All I know is I began to like this thing, and it was a good, pleasurable feeling for me, right? Um, and at that time, I feel like I know for sure, I had started to develop my man juice, right? And y'all know what that is. But um, as I move forward in life, that feeling, that high that I once got, um, it was always there. I felt like I was always wanting to chase it, right? Even though after a while, we stopped. Um, but I had never experienced something like that, right? And I'm wondering now, you know, as when I look back on those things, like how would this young kid, young child, um, know things about that, about what he was doing, unless he had experienced it, um, or in some sort of fashion experienced it, whether it's happened to him before or he's watched it on television. He's watched other people doing it. Um, you know, those things go through my mind now when I reflect back on it. Even thinking now, I'm like, where did he learn a lot of that stuff from? You know what I'm saying? Well, like I said, he was younger than me, and so how would he even know what to do? How would he even know how to feel? Things like that. You understand what I'm saying? And what it did to me mentally and spiritually, it gave me a submissive type of mindset, right? I don't know if I wanted it to stop, but I know when it was time for us to be sneaky and, to stay up late, I would never say no. I would never say no, and I would continue on, right? Uh, Obviously, like I mentioned, it was pleasurable to me. Um, Now, when it started, I knew something was not right. I didn't know the order of what's the words I'm looking for? I guess sexual interactions. At the time, I'm not sure if I understood that sex was supposed to be between a man and a woman, right? And I don't even know what we were doing was even called sex, but it was pretty damn close to it, right? Um, but what it did to my mindset, like I said, it put me in a real submissive type of uh, mindset. It it felt, pleasurable to me, and that high that I got, I continued to chase it, right? I continued and I continued all throughout my adulthood, no joke. And not only with men, but with women as well. And what that does to your mind, and what that does to your spirit, you take on you take on another person's idea of what sex is, right? You take on another person's ideology. You take on another person's uh, understanding, right? And since it's your first understanding, or understanding that was forced upon you, sometimes that can become a way of life. You understand what I'm saying? Because you have a new spirit on you, right? You have a new voice talking to you, right? Telling you that, hey, I'm here. I'm in you. Like this other person transfers a spirit to you, right? That you're probably too young or not ready for. You're not ready for spiritually. You're not ready for it mentally. Most cases, you're not ready for it physically, right? And especially for especially for women at a very young age, physically, when things like that happen to them, when their innocence is taken away from them at such a young age, oftentimes they're not ready for it. Physically, their bodies are not developed enough to take the type of abuse, right? Take things into them. Their bodies, their minds are not developed well enough to understand what's going on. Their minds are not developed enough or their spirits are not developed enough to recover from it. And so, what tends to happen when we take on this new idea of life, this new idea of sex and interacting with another person, when we take that on, right, and we don't know how to recover from it, we tend to live life by that idea, and either consciously or subconsciously teach it, right? um because our minds, our innocent minds, the virginity of our minds has been broken. You get what I'm saying? If you guys ever looked into when a woman loses her virginity to a guy, right? She takes on a lot of his attributes. She takes on um, a lot of his thinking and his mindset. And when a woman has too many sexual partners and too many men leaving their DNA in her, she takes on all those different spirits. This is why women tend to become very hard when they've had too many sexual partners. You understand what I'm saying? And if that first encounter is not what you wanted, and I'm trying to stay away from the word, right? I'm trying to stay away from the word as much as I can, right? I'm a straight shooter sometimes, right? I'll say the word, but when when your innocence is stripped away from you, and when you begin to live life and you don't know how to deal with it, right? Those ideas, let me tell you right now, for all of you who have suffered something like that, those ideas that pop up in your mind, that spirit that you take on, right? Um, it's not yours. You get what I'm saying? You've been forcefully handed um this new way of thinking. And I call it new because you've never had something like this before. You've never experienced it before. You understand what I'm saying? Um, even when it's, not necessarily uh, a boy girl, it can be boy boy, and like in my situation, a girl girl. Like in so many of our situations, right? We're not prepared to take on this, but we start to develop. Women start can become extremely tough and extremely hard, and men the opposite, right? They become extremely soft and submissive, right? Um, I don't know. I don't necessarily know why it's like that, but one can imagine, right? Like I said, for women, they're receivers. For girls, they're receivers, right? So they take on a lot of these spirits and a lot of these men mentalities, and like physically, they start developing deep voices, right? They start developing nonchalant attitudes, right? They start developing um, a lack of sexual pleasure and a lack of femininity, right? They um, what's the words I'm looking for? They become less emotionally involved in sex, and that's just not how it's supposed to be, right? um and it desensitizes them to understanding what proper sexual interactions should be, right? It's out of order, right? And it's out of order because one, it was either forced, or you were too young to understand what was going on. You were not spiritually ready to take this stuff on. For boys, it's different. We become more girly, right? We become more submissive, right? It's crazy because women tend to become more manly, and then men starts to become more soft, right? They become more feminine, and if you will, and it could lead to girls wanting to be boys, right? It could lead to boys wanting to be girls, right? And I believe, in my heart, I believe that it is a defense mechanism for girls wanting to be boys and boys wanting to be girls. Because if you've taken on so much, as a female, if you've taken on so much, if you feel in your heart that men has always taken advantage of you, well, the best way to defend against a man taking more advantage of you is to become one, right? And so they put on this I want to be a boy now, right? But it's just a defense so no other boys can take advantage of them. Okay? And then for men, right? When we become submissive, when we can't say no, when we start chasing pleasure, right? We become uh, like uh, the thing that we don't necessarily want to harm us again, right? So we become more submissive, more feminine. Like we've given our sexual energy, right? We've given our innocence to someone who, you know, doesn't really know what they're doing to sometimes, right? Like in my case, right? Neither one of us knew what the hell was going on, right? But we become submissive, and we become that way because we don't want to be hurt. We don't want to be harmed, right? And this is the same for if uh, a man or a boy, his unwanted encounter was with either a man or boy, or even with a girl, and we just become submissive. We become, more girly. You understand what I'm saying? Um, especially if it was absolutely forcefully taken away from you. You understand what I'm saying? But we begin to develop these new spirits, and we walk by them, right? And then as we grow, and we were not prepared to fight these demons that are in us now, well, things start to come out. We can become more promiscuous, right? We would, like, for example, my example, right? I continue to seek this pleasure in men and in women. You understand what I'm saying? I'm chasing this high. I'm living by this new idea, right? But I'm not spiritually discerning that this is just a demon that's haunting me. It was the transference of spirits, right? This person gave me this sexual spirit that I couldn't get off, right? And then ultimately it led to a real big decrease in my confidence, right? And I became closed off, extremely submissive, and not wanting to speak up for myself a lot of the times, and I always wanted to, stay up late nights, and this is all stemming from my encounter that I wasn't ready for. You understand what I'm saying? But when we become when we live life according to that, it manifests itself in different ways. It manifests itself in, different color hairs, and it manifests itself in tattoos, and being easy and promiscuous. It manifests itself, and people that has a sexual demon can see sexual demons in other people, right? Because they attract each other. You understand what I'm saying? Um, I it's crazy because we can see the effects of it when we look at our community, right? It's this confused mindset that a lot of us have, right? We are pleasure seekers more than purpose seekers, right? And again, a lot of our men want to be women, a lot of our women want to be men. Men are extremely submissive, women are extremely tough and hard, right? Um, and it has become so much a part of our culture, right? We believe it to be true, right? This idea that we are sexually liberated. You understand what I'm saying? And people play on that things. People who are outside of our community, they continue to force feed us this stuff and tell us that it's okay the way we are, right? And we don't have a clue on how we are supposed to fight this thing. You understand what I'm saying? We can't fight what's wrong. And so we live according to what's been taught to us spiritually, what's been taught to us um, through someone else's experience or someone else's reality or someone else's um, uh, um, uh, spirituality intaking, right? Which is it's not even the correct words to say, but what's in their spirit, right? And because so, we just can't discern what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false. We can't see. We don't know what natural order is. You know what I'm saying? We just we're living life based on someone else's ideas and ideology, and we keep passing and we keep teaching it to, if we're unhealed and we can't get rid of this thing, right? And so, like I said, we subconsciously and consciously teach it because why? It's in us now. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like we not only have been physical, we not only have had our physical innocence taken away from us, but we've had our spiritual innocence taken away from us as well. You get what I'm saying? We've had our mental innocence, like we're all confused in the mind. You get what I'm saying? Um, but how do we begin to even try to overcome this thing? You understand what I'm saying? So let's compare this to the this rapture doctrine that's out there plaguing our spiritual system, plaguing our our ideas, right? Let's compare this to this non-biblical rapture doctrine. First, let me get into the definition of what being raptured actually is. A lot of us in the church, a lot of us believe that before all these bad times happen, we're going to be raptured up and taken to heaven, right? Um, but like I said, let me get into the definition of what being raptured is, right? Uh, so it means to be carried away as prey, right? It means to be violently taken away. It means to be kidnapped. It means to be abducted, right? And it means to be raped, right? It means to be plundered. You get what I'm saying? Right? And so a lot of us don't even understand that we have pretty much as a people especially black people, and I use black because it's just a socially accepted term. We as black people, we have been raptured so much during our existence here on earth. You understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna get into some biblical references as well. But we have been forcefully fed ideas that are not ours, and we live life by them. For example, this rapture doctrine. You get what I'm saying? This going to heaven doctrine. There's so many doctrines that we've been giving. We've been given spiritual systems. We've been given a way of life, a culture that is not ours. You know what I'm saying? It's never been ours. Okay? And so just like when we have our our sexual innocence taken away from us, this is pretty much the same idea, because we're having our spiritual innocence taken away from us. We've been kidnapped, right, by people who don't have our best interests at heart. Why? Because it's based on what they believe is true. They believe we were people that was supposed to serve them. You understand what I'm saying? And so let's get into some biblical references real quick. And this is their idea. This is their spirit. This is their spiritual understanding of who they are. They believe they are the rulers of this earth. You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, biblically, when we look at the children of Israel, right, and we can look in 2 Kings, right, when the children of Israel were carried away, right? What's one of the definitions of being raptured, right? To be violently carried away, or to be taken away, right? The children of Israel were taken away into captivity. In 2 Kings 17, got some notes here. 2 Kings 17, you can read 5 through 23. You understand what I'm saying? They were violently taken away. They were carried away to Assyria at that time from Samaria. We can also look at Jeremiah 29 4 through 14. Now this is we were again taken away, violently taken away to Babylon. You understand what I'm saying? Now when we can also go to some other parts of history, parts of our history as black people. For example, the most popular one is the transatlantic slave trade, right? What happened to us as a people when we were when we went through that, right? We were violently, forcefully raptured away from our home, Western Africa, other parts of Africa, Jerusalem, right? We were forced away as slaves to come over to America, right? And biblically, what the Bible talks about when this stuff happens is that we will lose our identity, right? We will lose our sense of heritage, right? We can look at Jeremiah 17:4, which tells us, right, that we will be discontinued from our heritage, right? We can look at Psalms 83:4, right? That tells us we'll be discontinued from our heritage, right? We can look at things like Deuteronomy 28:37 that will tell us that will become a proverb and a byword, right, to all these other people And what ultimately happens when we are forcefully taken away, or we forcefully have our innocence taken away from us? We begin to take on these other ideas that are not ours, right? Bible tells us that we will serve, Deuteronomy, I think 4. The Bible tells us that we will begin to serve gods that are not ours, gods of wood and stone. These are gods that these other nations that we are now captive of. These are gods that we will begin to serve. Why? Because we lost our heritage. We don't know who we are. We're taking on someone else's spiritual system, right? We don't know who our God is. You understand what I'm saying? So this rapture doctrine, it's weird because so many people are looking forward to being raptured away, not knowing that, especially in the black church, right? So many people are looking forward to this, not knowing that we continue through our existence here on earth. We've always been raptured. We've always been plundered, right? We've always been taken away as prey, right? We've always been abducted. We've always been snatched away violently. You understand? We've been spiritually, mentally, physically raped. You get what I'm saying? And so just like when we have our innocence taken away, like I have, like so many people have, before they're spiritually ready for it, right? We begin to go through this identity crisis. We begin to live life according to the new spirit that's been put on us. Even though a lot of the times we know that the spirit that's on us, it's out of order. There's something wrong with it, right? We walk around, we see men trying to be girls and girls trying to be men. We know something is absolutely off, but we never say anything. We never do anything, but we accept it. Why? Why do we accept it? Because it's this new spirit placed upon us that we cannot shake, right? That we don't know how to shake. One, because again, we've lost our identity. We don't know what our culture is. We don't know who we are, right? And so when this new spirit is on us, it's pleasurable, and we continuously chase this pleasure, not knowing we're completely out of order. You understand what I'm saying? So it's crazy that we continuously look to be raptured. Although, let me say this, although biblically, rapture is not found anywhere in there, where do we get this doctrine from? Where do we get this understanding that we should be raptured away? We should be violently taken away. We should have our innocence taken away from us, right? Where do we get this from? We get this from, one, not understanding what being raptured means. We get this from people with an understanding that is actually beneath ours. but they believe in it so much that they force feed it to us. This is not our spirit. This is not who we are, and we know it. How many of us, right? How many of us, so-called blacks, 100% know that there's something special about, even though you don't know what it is, how many of us know that there's something extremely special about us, right? But we may be afraid to explore what we know that specialness is. We don't want to go there because there's a mindset we now have in our we're living by, because we've been raptured. Right? We're living with another spirit. You understand what I'm saying? How many of us know, like, in with every fiber and every piece of you, you know there's something different and special about me. I don't know what it is, though. I can't put my finger on it. We are at a time in our lives. We are at a time in history. We are at a time where knowledge is increasing. This is biblical too, right? We're at a time where we no longer have excuses to try and to continue to live the way we do. We can't continue to live this raptured lifestyle because it's not our spirit, it's not our understanding, it's not natural to us. You get what I'm saying? Just like when we lose our identity, when we are, have our sexual identity taken away from us from this experience that we had. Right? We have our sexual identity taken away from us and we're giving something completely different. How do we overcome that? How do we begin to think different so that we're not passing this down and teaching this to the next generation after us? You get what I'm saying? How do we stop this raptured mindset? You understand what I'm saying? How do we get rid of it? Well, the first thing we have to do is begin to understand who we are. We have to understand where we come from. Now, if we look at Deuteronomy chapter 28, I encourage you all to read the entirety of Deuteronomy chapter 28. This gives us the blessings and the curses of not following the commands of our God, the Most High Yah. You understand what I'm saying? This gives us an idea. This begins to give us an idea of what must be done to begin to transform our lives. Right? When we take on this confused mindset after being raptured, after going out serving gods of wood and of stone and living according to someone else's culture and someone else's spirit. When we begin to take that on, the only way to shake that is to follow that gut instinct of, damn, I'm special, but I don't know what to do to get to that specialness, right? Follow that gut instinct. There's a people, biblically, I've mentioned them before. There's a people in the Bible that God speaks to and has placed above every nation in the world. Right? There is a nation that has a covenant with the Most High God. Right? I've mentioned the name Israel. This nation is the only nation that God has given a different way of thinking. He's given a different way of living. He's given laws and commands to. He hasn't done this with no other nation. Right? These people settled in at one point. They settled in the land of Canaan. I'll say that, right? They settled there. The land was never called Israel, but that's another story for a different time, right? They settled in what we know as Jerusalem in 770 ID. We can find this history in Matthew chapter 24, right? In 70 AD, they were, chased out, right? It was prophesied that they will be chased out and taken captive. They will be taken away from their homeland. Now, this group of people left Jerusalem, and went into a lot of parts of Western Africa. Okay. These people, when the transatlantic slave trade happened, right? And I'm going to skip over the Spain and Portugal because ultimately we went there. We went there first and then we came to the Americas. Well, let's just start there, right? Where did they get these people from? Where did they get these Israelites from? You understand what I'm saying? Where did they get them from? They went down into Africa, Western Africa, took them up to Spain and Portugal, right? Took them there first. Then they went down to the Americas. Then they started taking them directly from Western Africa over to the Americas, right? They raptured us. They took us away violently. They began to teach us different ways of living, not according to who we really are, which are the people that set above every nation in the world, which are kings and poets and musicians, right? They stripped us away from all of that and began to give us a mindset of bottom feeders. They began to give us a mindset of hating one another. They began to give us a mindset of submissiveness and hardness towards one another. Get what I'm saying? You catch my drift? They began to give us this mindset. Deuteronomy 28, chapter 28, tells us the blessings of and the curses of getting away from our God. Some of the blessings, we're going to be set above all nations. We're going to live as communities. Everybody's going to come to us to borrow. We're not going to borrow, right? We're going to have thriving communities with gold and the top tier of everything. Why? Because when we are following the natural order of God's laws, right? Which some of them are man and woman, right? Don't steal, don't have sex with another man's wife, things like worship me on Sabbath or Saturdays or the ending of the week. It's not called Saturday, but it's the Shabbat, right? Things like produce children, right? Things like take care of everyone in the community. Things like reverence the Most High first. Things like gather on certain days, right? Things like don't have another God, right? Things like obey your elders, right? Obey your parents. Things like don't lust after what your neighbor have, right? Don't move his landlines and things like that, right? Things to take care of a community. Things like when you borrow, make sure you repay. Simple things like that, which is supposed to be our mindset. But unfortunately, there are some curses that if we broke these laws of community, we would suffer, right? We would go into captivity, meaning we will be raped and pillaged. We will be violently taken away from our home, right? We'd be kidnapped and abducted. We would serve gods of wood and stone who our forefathers never knew. We will begin to live life with a different understanding, not natural to who we are. You understand him? You get what I'm saying? The loss of innocence or rape and rapture is the same thing. Why are we desiring to be raptured when we don't even, first of all, it's not biblical and we don't understand the meaning behind this? Why are we desiring something so horrible, something that we've experienced all throughout our existence? You get what I'm saying? Why are we taking on the mindset of nations that are beneath us and we don't even know it? But in the land of their captivity, if my people will wake the hell up and remember themselves and cry out and begin to walk holy or walk differently according to our former ways, right? If they will cry out to the Most High God, He will hear us. Okay? If we don't live by it's okay for a boy to be a girl and a girl to be a boy, it's not okay to uh, abort children and um, worship other gods. Little simple things like that. If we think on things like our unity is our divinity. You understand what I'm saying? If we think on things like, if we begin the healing process, which is ultimately beginning to understand our history and who we are in relations to the Most High. That's the beginning of the healing process. When we are savagely beaten and raped, when we have a loss of innocence. These other nations believe that it's okay to live sexually immoral, spiritually immoral. We become extremely confused because they teach us those things. Things that are against nature. You understand what I'm saying? But how do we begin the healing process? There's a book that a lot of us all have, probably sitting around collecting dust. This is our history. The Bible teaches to seek the old ways. Seek the old ways. Right? I know a lot of us believe that there is no law, right? There's nothing to govern us by. But that wasn't so. That wasn't naturally so with us, right? Those other nations, these other people who've raptured us, taught us that we can live in complete anarchy. Excuse me, guys, my alarm is going off, but we have lived by so many different spirits, understandings, ideologies for so long that we are passing it down subconsciously or even consciously. Ideas that are not our own. And so I would encourage everyone, all of my people, all of the diaspora, all people that looks like me, all people that have been through this complete rapture, independently and nationally, right? Meaning you've had your innocence taken away, independently as an individual, and we've had our innocence taken away as a nation. All of my people, it's time to begin to wake up and start realizing and acting upon that thought that tells you you're special. You're a different type of person. You feel what I'm saying? We can't ultimately, we cannot continue walking in another person's spirit, in another person's understanding of life. Why? Because we are different. God deals with us differently. Anyway, I hope y'all were able to get something from this. And you know, my people, it's time to wake up. It's time to walk a different way. It's time to walk according to nature. It's time to start following the natural order that God has laid out for us. Right? I know it's hard. It's hard. It's hard, man. It's hard because we've been living by a different spirit for so long. We've been living by a different spirit, a different understanding, a different ideology, and we've been living according to ways that are contradictory to who we are. Hell, we're even living in a climate that's contradictory to who we are. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, hey man, this has been another episode of the Natural Order Podcast. I'm Big Z. I'll holla at y'all.